Have you ever stopped to think that maybe, just maybe, the story you tell yourself about your life is the one that actually comes true? Today, we're going to dive into that exact idea with a really simple but incredibly powerful story. It's all about how our deepest thoughts can literally shape the world we experience.
And this isn't some new age idea. The great writer Napoleon Hill said it perfectly. What you think about, you become. It's a truth you see over and over again in the lives of the most successful people. It's like our inner world, our thoughts, are the blueprint for everything we build on the outside.
So this really gets to the heart of our story today. Can one single thought, like a tiny little seed, really have the power to change everything? Can it actually turn a life of scarcity into a life of abundance? Well, let's jump into our story and find out.
Our story starts, like a lot of good ones do, with someone who feels completely and utterly stuck. We'll call this first part, a life of empty hands. Okay, so I want you to picture this, a huge, noisy railway station, just buzzing with people, rushing to catch their trains, all heading off towards their futures. And right there, in the middle of all that movement, sat a man whose life felt like it was standing perfectly still. His days were just this repeating loop of holding out his hand, hoping for a coin. His entire reality was built on what he could get from other people.
And then, into this scene walks another man. You can just tell he's different. He's got this expensive suit on and he walks with this purpose that just makes him stand out. To the beggar, this guy looked like a walking treasure chest. His immediate thought was, wow, he must be rich. He's definitely going to give me something.
Now this is where it gets really interesting. What we're seeing here is a collision of two completely different worlds, two completely different mindsets. The beggar saw life as a one-way street. It was all about taking. He truly believed he had nothing to offer. But the businessman, he was running on a totally different operating system, exchange. He believed everyone, and I mean everyone, has something of value to give.
So let's get to the moment where these two worlds actually collide. We'll call this chapter, A Question That Changed Everything. So the beggar goes up to him, hand out, just like he's done 1,000 times before. But instead of getting a coin dropped in his hand, he gets this question. A question so out of left field, it just stops him dead in his tracks. I mean, it challenged the very core of who he thought he was.
And his reply, well, it was almost like a reflex, right? He's just defending his reality. Sir, I'm just a beggar. He couldn't even process the question because in the story he told himself every single day, he was defined by what he didn't have.
The businessman then very gently explains his whole philosophy. It's a simple but really profound idea we can call the law of exchange. His whole belief was that to get something of value, you first have to give something of value. It's a two-way street.
And with that, the businessman boards his train and he's gone. He left the beggar just standing there, completely stunned. But here's the thing. He left behind something so much more valuable than a coin. He left behind an idea. It was like this tiny seed had just been planted in the beggar's mind, and it was starting to stir.
And that one little seed of a thought starts to grow in our next chapter, which we'll call An Idea in Full Bloom.
So get this. For 2 whole days, the man didn't even beg. He just wrestled with that question. That old story, I have nothing, was in a battle with this brand new, challenging idea. What could I possibly give? He just kept asking himself over and over again.
And then, on the third day, as he's sitting there, lost in thought, his eyes land on something he'd probably seen 1,000,000 times but never really seen before, a little patch of colorful wildflowers growing near the tracks. And in that one instant, boom! Everything clicked. He had found his value.
So he comes up with this new plan. It's so simple, but it's absolutely brilliant. He decided he wouldn't just take anymore. He was going to give. For every person who gave him a coin, he was going to offer something beautiful back, a single wildflower. It was such a small shift, but it was about to change his entire world.
And then, this amazing thing started to happen. People weren't just taking the flowers. They were delighted. You could see their faces light up. By offering this tiny piece of beauty, he completely transformed the whole interaction. And wouldn't you know it, as he gave, he started receiving more generosity than he ever had before.
This brand new reality leads to this massive internal shift, which brings us to our next chapter, The Secret of a Businessman.
Well, one day, the same businessman came back. He sees our guy happily exchanging flowers for coins, and a big smile spreads across his face. He hands him some money, and as he takes the flower, he says these incredible words, confirming the change that had already happened inside the flower seller's head.
And this just lays out the journey perfectly, doesn't it? He started with that old story, I'm just a taker. The catalyst was the businessman's question, that one challenging truth. That led to the discovery of his own value, the flowers. And all of that created a powerful new story, I am a creator of value. I'm a businessman.
The second he truly believed that new story, the railway station wasn't his world anymore. It was just a starting point. He packed up his flowers and he walked away, not running from his old life, but walking confidently straight into his new one.
Which brings us to our final and honestly our most important chapter. Your future is your story.
I mean, the transformation was just unbelievably fast. Just imagine the scene. Only 6 months later, at that very same station, two well-dressed businessmen meet. One is the mentor, and the other? It's our former beggar, now traveling to expand his booming flower business.
When the original businessman asked him what his secret was, our flower seller said this, and it's so powerful. He realized his circumstances were never the real problem. His perception of himself was. That identity of a businessman was inside him the entire time, just waiting to be seen.
And so, our story ends with a simple truth. The life we live is just a mirror of the story we believe about ourselves. So I'll leave you with this one final thought to take with you. What new story are you going to choose to tell yourself starting right now?